Exposed, 7 haunted rules at a sinister Nevada research facility where terrifying secrets lurk. The air in the dusty Nevada town crackled with fear, an eerie tremor that hummed through the streets like a ghostly whisper. Deep in the sprawling desert, shadows twisted around the derelict Thornfield Research Facility, an ominous relic of forgotten horrors. It stood alone, its cracked windows watching, waiting for something dark to happen. The townsfolk knew the stories. They trembled as they shared hushed warnings of curses born from broken promises and experiments gone awry. Sarah, desperate for change and determined to provide a better life for her son, Ethan, brushed aside these rumors. A job at the facility meant she could claw her way out of the pit she was stuck in. Inside the diner, the clatter of plates and the smell of grease hardly masked Sarah's anxiety. It wasn't just another double shift, it was a countdown to that first fateful night at Thornfield. As she sat at her weekly support group, surrounded by other weary souls, they spoke in hushed tones, reverberating dread. The 7 rules, they muttered, voices trembling with unshakable terror. Each rule was a lifeline thrown into the depths of despair, but even listening made her skin crawl. She refused to let their paranoia entangle her. She was here for a new beginning, not to feed on fear. On her first night at Thornfield, the air felt thick, stifling her breath. The lights flickered overhead, casting ghostly shadows that danced along the peeling walls. The hum of outdated machines echoed like the hushed whispers she'd heard earlier. Her heart raced as she moved deeper into the darkened hallways. Each corner turn felt like a descent into a nightmare, the unsettling chill of being watched chilled her skin. A sudden, cold draft swept past, weaving the flickering glow of the lights into a spectral performance. Sarah wanted to recoil, but professionalism and necessity forced her forward. Sarah's phone vibrated violently, snapping her attention back. Panic set in as she saw message after message from her support group, a chorus of frantic confessions, warnings about shadows lurking and the air thickening with dread. She tried to speak up, to share her own fear, but those around her wrapped her in a cloak of ridicule and condescension. "You're too tense," they said dismissively. But moments later, an unsettling weight pressed down on her, as if those very walls were listening, pulling her secrets into their dark fold. She stumbled upon an old storeroom, the smell of mold choking her senses as she flicked on the light. Dust danced like lost souls. Files lay scattered. The more she read, the more her stomach churned. Families vanished, names crossed out like forgotten echoes. The realization was a punch to the gut. How many had passed through this corridor of horror? Were her neighbors complicit in the silence? A nightmarish thought crashed over her. The lights flickered violently, plunging her into a suffocating darkness. Her breath quickened as panic seized her. "No!" she mouthed silently, eyes straining to pierce through the obsidian shroud. And then she heard it, a whisper, soft but unmistakable, threading through the silence, calling her name. Terror ripped through her, a raw scream lodged in her throat. The presence behind her felt palpable, its breath a chilling reminder of the horrors buried deeply within the walls. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Desperately, Sarah fumbled for the doorknob, heart pounding, fear howling in her ears. Had she broken a rule already? What did it mean, to trust no one? Shadows flitted in her peripheral vision, the silent warnings grew louder. The dread of knowing she wasn't alone descended upon her. What kind of nightmare had she stepped into? Each step backward felt like a dance with death itself. The wooden floor creaked ominously beneath her weight, and she froze, realizing the haunted truth that sometimes the monsters lurking in the shadows were the faces of those we once thought we could trust. She clutched the door handle, but the voice inside her head only deepened her terror, chilling her to the bone. The final rule echoed, haunting yet clear: trust no one. The whisper twisted through the darkness, wrapping around Sarah like a noose. Panic surged in her chest as she spun, fearing to see what might lurk just beyond the thin line of light streaming from the storeroom. She wanted to scream but felt her throat constrict, as if the facility itself had gripped her tightly. The air thickened, and the oppressive silence bore down on her. "Don't look, just get out," she told herself, voice barely more than a whisper in her own head. Each heartbeat thundered like a warning drum, the instinct to flee rose in her, primal and urgent. She bolted to the door, hand trembling as it brushed against the cold metal knob. An icy sensation jolted through her, a premonition that rooted her in place. The darkness behind her deepened, swirling into something almost tangible. Shadows stretched, elongated by the failing light, and that horrid whisper returned, this time more insistent, more menacing. Sarah, chills raced down her spine. She yanked the door, throwing herself into the corridor, where flickering fluorescent lights illuminated the path. Breathing heavily, she raced forward, glancing back only once to ensure nothing pursued her. But the hallway was empty, just rows of closed doors, each one a cruel reminder of the secrets hidden within. The facility felt alive, its heartbeat pulsing through the walls. The whispers lingered, teasing her with snippets of forgotten fears. Footsteps echoed somewhere deep inside, deceptively slow, like deliberate taunts designed to shove her into catatonic dread. Suddenly, Sarah remembered the rules, the guardrails for anyone who dared step into this living nightmare. She fumbled through the fragments of advice she'd heard, the warnings echoing in her mind. One rule stood clearer than the rest: never stay alone for long. She kicked her pace up a notch, rushing toward the break room she hoped would be her sanctuary. But that hope fluttered weakly as she spotted a shadow at the end of the hall, a figure standing too still under the flickering lights. Just as she was about to call out, the light above flickered violently, plunging her into darkness once more. Panic seized her. She pivoted but stumbled, catching herself at the edge of a coffee table, splintered and cracked like her resolve. "Who's there?" she managed to croak. The weight of eyes bore down on her, and a low laugh rippled through the silence, cold like winter's breath. "Didn't you read the rules?" it taunted, the voice oozing with malice. Insatiable curiosity always leads to regret. Sarah's heart raced. She couldn't see, but she could feel. Something shifted in the dark, a predator scenting fear. The voice whispered again, as if it were caressing her ears. "Trust no one." The sound was layered, like multiple voices speaking in unison. It gnawed at her sanity, burrowing in, deeper, until every rational thought slipped away like grains of sand. She could almost hear Ethan's laughter, innocent and unaware, a jarring reminder that her fight was not just for her but for him too. The door behind her seemed to beckon, but she hesitated, the voice still dancing in her ears. What if it was a trap? What if her escape was meant to lead her back into those shadows? A gust of wind swept through, colder than before. With a deafening roar, the lights above flickered back to life, illuminating the figure now inches from her. A translucent face twisted into a haunting grin, eyes void of soul. Overwhelmed with fear, she lunged for the door, but footsteps echoed closer, relentless and vile. She barreled out into the dark main hall, thoughts racing. Had that been a warning, a trap, or something darker? Had she truly broken the first rule? But just as she hit the hallway, the lights above dimmed again, casting her once more into an inky void. All she felt was dread, overwhelming and consuming. She turned at the last moment, clutching her phone like a talisman, knowing she must make a choice: fight or flee. Ethan's face flickered in her mind again. Had she left him behind? Desperately, she searched the abyss, stepping cautiously backward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. If only she could navigate this maze of despair. Sarah, another whisper, closer and more defined, pregnant with a sinister promise. In that moment, she realized the true nature of her plight and at what cost she would pay for her desperation. The haunted corridors of Thornfield held more than secrets, they held a destiny entwined with darkness. As she faced the encroaching shadows, she knew, the fight for Ethan had only just begun. What horrors awaited her next? Would she truly unravel the truth, or would she become another lost name on a forgotten file? The darkness wrapped around Sarah, a thick shroud of suffocating dread. Time felt distorted, each second stretching into eternity. She grasped her phone tightly, the dim light flickering like the last breath of hope. Panic clawed at her throat, urging her to run. But where could she flee? She took a shaky step backward, her eyes darting to the shadows. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices that wove together like some wicked lullaby. "Trust no one," echoed in her ears again, making her question her own thoughts. She shook her head, willing the fear to dissipate. "Focus, Sarah. You need to find Ethan." Just as she turned to find a way to escape, the lights flickered on once more with a deafening buzz, illuminating the hallway ahead. But now it felt worse. For every inch of light pushed back the shadows, it also revealed movement just where she had faced moments before. The figure was gone. Her stomach churned. Where did it go? "Ethan!" She called out, voice cracking. Silence answered, a heavy, burdensome silence that pressed in from all sides. The air grew stale and thick, filled with an unnameable dread. Was she the only one left in this prison of despair? The rhythm of her pulse quickened as she stumbled forward, driven by desperation. Each door lining the corridor loomed like a silent sentinel, mocking her uncertainty. She peered through the small glass window of the nearest door, breath hitching in her throat. Nothing but darkness inside. The walls felt unstable, as if the very building was about to crumble under the weight of its secrets. Then she heard the scratching sound, faint but unmistakable. Her gut twisted with fear. A desperate need to understand what was happening propelled her forward. She followed the sound, a voice in the back of her mind screaming at her to stop, but the instinct to confront whatever this was overpowered her reason. As she neared the sound, she noticed a door slightly ajar at the end of the hall. The scratching grew louder, punctuated by a low, plaintive whimper. "Ethan?" She called again, this time her voice breaking with the weight of hope. Fingers trembling, she pushed the door open wider, stepping into a dimly lit room. It was cluttered with old research papers and broken equipment, but in the corner, shadows clung desperately to the walls, and there, curled tightly on the floor, was a figure. A small body, trembling. Her heart soared. "Ethan!" She rushed forward, panic intertwining with relief as she knelt beside him. His eyes widened, glistening with tears, looking more fragile than ever in this desolate place. "Sarah!" He gasped, rasping breathless relief. I thought you wouldn't come back." But amidst their reunion, the scratching halted. The atmosphere shifted. A cold breeze swooshed through the room, extinguishing the last vestiges of warmth. Sarah felt a sharp prickling sensation along the back of her neck, the hairs standing on end. The air crackled ominously, charged with something unnatural. She turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach, and there it was, an outline forming in the shadows behind the door, twisting and writhing as if it were alive. The voice returned, low and vicious. "You shouldn't have come back, Sarah, now you both belong to us." A shudder ran through her. Ethan clutched at her arm, fear amplifying the connection between them. They weren't just trapped. They had wandered too deep into something dark and hungry. And now, there was no easy way out. With a newfound urgency, she gripped Ethan's hand, trying to pull him away. But as she turned to escape, the darkness surged forth, surrounding them both. Reality warped around them, and everything felt like it was about to unravel. What was this being that had taken root in Thornfield? Did it hunger for more souls? Would they escape the ever-tightening grip, or would they become just another whisper in the lore of the damned? Time was running out, and whatever was lurking was about to claim its prize. Gritting her teeth, Sarah knew they had to fight back before the darkness consumed them whole. But would they succeed, or had they stumbled into a trap with no escape? The darkness pulsed like a living thing, constricting tighter around Sarah and Ethan. The shadows flickered, drawing closer, hungry for warmth and light. She could feel Ethan's grip tighten on her arm, fear palpable in his soft whimpers. "Sarah, we have to go. Now," he urged, his voice cracking. But she felt the weight of something ancient pressing against them, compelling her to stay. "No. We can't just run. We need to figure out what it wants." She couldn't shake the feeling that understanding this horror could somehow release them. But every instinct screamed for her to flee. The outline in the darkness shifted, expanding, malevolent eyes glimmering in the deep. It felt like the shadows themselves were alive, swirling with intent. "Do you think you'll escape, my sweet children?" The voice taunted, dripping with venom. "You've stepped into my domain now." An icy tendril stretched toward Sarah, brushing against her skin. The touch sent a flood of icy dread through her veins. She mustered her strength, her mind racing. "What do you want? Who are you?" The figure let out a chilling laugh that echoed against the crumbling walls. "I am the keeper of your fears, the revelator of your sins. I feed on the darkness within." Its form shimmered, revealing twisted faces of forgotten souls, trapped in eternal torment. "No!" Ethan cried, backing away, but Sarah held firm. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted defiantly, though her heart raced. She didn't want to back down. This thing fed on fear, and she wouldn't let it win. As if sensing her resolve, the shadowy mass grew agitated, writhing and contorting in anger. "Foolish girl. You play with fire. Your spirits belong to me." Ethan tugged at her, desperation laying thick in his voice. "Sarah, we need to go. We can't fight this." But Sarah, caught between fear and determination, took a step forward. "No. We have to confront our fears." Those words ignited a spark of courage in her. She remembered how their studies had insisted that fear loses its power when exposed. "Look at it directly, Ethan. Face it." She locked eyes with the ghastly figure, clenching her fists tightly. "You're just a shadow. You have no power." The entity recoiled, twisting as if struck, its multitude of faces contorting into a grotesque mask of rage. "You think you can defy me? You'll regret this." It hissed. With a sudden roar, the darkness lunged, its form crashing towards them. Sarah screamed as she felt the void engulfing her, pulling at her very essence. Instinctively, she squeezed Ethan's hand tighter, channeling all her courage into their connection. "Fight back, Ethan. Hold on to me," she shouted. "Think of something good, something that gives you strength." In an instant, she felt Ethan's pulse quicken through their clasped hands. "Our family, our home," he murmured, words tumbling from him like a lifeline. "We'll make it out together." The moment their minds converged, a burst of light erupted from their bonded souls, illuminating the darkened room. The shadows shrieked, thrashing wildly as they were pushed back. But as the light surged, Sarah felt a sharp pain tingling at her core. The sound of shattering glass reached her ears as the room around them began to fracture. "We can't hold it for long," she yelled over the cacophony. With every ounce of strength, they willed the brightness to expand, to force the creature back into the abyss. "Stay with me, Ethan. We can do this." But then, without warning, the light flickered. In an instant, it dimmed almost to nothingness, and the malevolent presence surged forward, more furious than ever. "Understand this, little ones," the creature hissed, "you can't escape what lurks within you. The real horror is yet to come." As blackness swirled around them, suffocating and tightening its grip, time felt like it stopped. Sarah's heart raced. Were they trapped forever, or would they find a path through the darkness? With the final embers of light dwindling, Sarah grasped Ethan tightly. "We need to find a way to banish it," she shouted, determination igniting within her. "We have to find its source." But just as she steadied herself for the fight, she could feel the oppressive weight of dread closing in again. A sinister whisper floated through the air, chilling her to the bone. "You'll never escape the truth, your truth." The world around them spun into chaos as they plunged deeper into the darkness. What was this truth? And could they survive long enough to uncover it, or was it too late? The darkness thickened, encasing them like mist. Sarah's thoughts raced as an unsettling chill seeped into her bones. "Ethan, think. What have we missed?" she urged, her voice strained, fighting to rise above the chaos swirling around them. "I don't know," he shouted back, his breath quickening, panic lacing every syllable. His eyes darted, searching for an escape, but there was none, only the suffocating blackness and the sinister laughter that echoed like a haunting chorus. As they remained entwined, Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, reaching deep within herself. She recalled the tales they had read, whispered stories about beings born from fear. "It preys on your doubts, your regrets. We need to dig deeper," she gasped, opening her eyes wide. "There's something we haven't faced. Something we buried." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You mean our past? Sarah, do we really have to? Maybe that's the only way." Her heart raced, not just from fear, but from the urgency that surged in her veins. "If we confront it, maybe it will lose its grip on us." The shadows shivered as if responding to their growing resolve. The oppressive atmosphere pulsed, warping with rage at their defiance. "Ah," the little doves wished to challenge the storm, the voice crooned mockingly, laced with unnerving glee. "Your memories will serve me well without warning." A surge of memories flooded back, laughter, warmth, the sound of Ethan's mother calling him for dinner, the way they felt invincible together. But darker images followed, shattered friendships, lost opportunities, and the heavy silence after tragedy. The weight of guilt and doubt wrapped around them, tugging painfully at their hearts. "Let us do it together," Sarah said, squeezing Ethan's hand harder, determination hardening in her gut. "Together." Gathering their courage, they began to speak the truth together. "The pain when we lost her," Sarah choked on the words, the darkness swirling dangerously closer. "We thought we could handle it alone, but we couldn't. It's been haunting us ever since." "Yes," Ethan shouted, finding strength in her admission. "We thought running away would save us. But it only dug us deeper." As their voices rose, the shadows flickered, the malevolent figure shrieked in fury, writhing in protest. "No! Silence! You dare turn your pain against me!" it roared, thrashing like a beast caught in a snare. The brightness flickered at the edges of their consciousness, dragging back memories they tucked away in fear. With each confession, they found their own truths radiating like a beacon. "We are not just our fears," Sarah proclaimed, fury igniting in her soul. "We can reclaim our power." Ethan echoed her, desperation turning into strength. "You don't own us. We are whole, not just fragments of pain." Light erupted from their intertwined hands, spilling warmth into the frigid dark. But the entity warped and twisted, its form screaming in anguish, caught between light and shadow. "You're nothing," it shrieked, shaking the foundation of their world. "You think this light can shield you? Face the truth. You are nothing." "Shut up," Sarah cried defiantly, as she and Ethan continued pouring out their confession. "We were afraid, but we're learning. We're more than just fear." Suddenly, the floor beneath them began to splinter, cracks forming as the light pushed back the darkness. The shadows surged one last time, launching themselves at them with renewed fury. "I will consume you." It howled, lance-like tendrils reaching for their hearts. Not today. Sarah screamed. With love and truth, we rise. With an explosive pulse of radiant energy, they harnessed the light, blasting the dark presence back, forcing it to shimmer and twist. They felt the crisp air rush in, the warmth invade the cold. Then, in a flash, the world around them collapsed and distorted, flickering like a faulty bulb. The shadows spiraled as they clawed desperately at what they could no longer hold. But a new sound broke the chaos, a distant, mechanical whirring. Their surroundings shifted rapidly, shadows retreating into the walls, as if being drawn back into some unseen force. Sarah! Look! Ethan shouted, pointing toward a narrow, flickering door that had appeared in the collapsing wall. With one last pulse of exhilaration and fear, they dashed toward the door, hands linked tightly together. They plunged through, but the moment they crossed the threshold, darkness coiled around them, threatening to pull them back into oblivion. Is this it? Will we? Ethan's voice trembled, hardly a whisper. I don't know, but we have to believe. Together. Just as they felt the darkness encroach, ready to drag them back, a blinding flash enveloped them, forcing Sarah to close her eyes tight. Then silence. When she opened her eyes again, they stood alone in an unfamiliar space, cold and metallic, enveloped in an eerie hum. Where are we now? Ethan murmured, looking around, wide-eyed with confusion. In the center of the room stood a flickering terminal, its screen lined with bizarre symbols that glowed ominously. Just beyond, an endless stretch of darkened hallway loomed ahead. Somewhere, hidden within the depths of the facility, the true horror awaited, and Sarah could sense it. Let us find out, she said, trepidation coiling in her gut as they stepped forward. Would this be a way out or a descent into yet deeper terror? The terminal flickered again, casting erratic shadows across the cold steel walls. Sarah fought the urge to step back, but Ethan was already moving closer. Do you see that? He whispered, eyes wide with both curiosity and fear. The screen pulsed with the symbols, glowing brighter before sinking back into dark obscurity. Each flicker felt like a heartbeat, quickening the tension in the air. What if this is just another trap? Sarah murmured, dread pooling in her stomach. But something within her compelled her to stay. We can't just stand here, Ethan replied, his voice steady despite the tremor gripping his hands. We didn't come this far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward beside him. As they neared, the symbols rearranged themselves into what looked like fractured words, names, dates, locations. A machine whirred to life behind them, something was stirring in the shadows. Did you hear that? Sarah's heart drummed wildly. The noise grew louder, echoed by the unsettling hum droning through the air as if the building itself was alive and breathing. I did. We need to hurry, Ethan agreed, but their eyes stayed fixated on the screen. It displayed cryptic messages, some repeating, fear. Fracture. Release. What does it mean? She asked nervously. Maybe it knows about the darkness, Ethan replied, his gaze narrowing. Maybe it's our only way to understand what we're up against. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the floor beneath them. The lights overhead flickered dangerously, then became solid, once more blindingly bright. Shadows quivered as if retreating into the very foundation of the facility. Whoa, what's happening? Ethan stumbled back, eyes darting to the darkened hallway. We need to focus, Sarah said, grounding herself. Let us try and connect to it. Maybe it can help us. Nodding, they breathed in sync, hands trembling as they laid them on the terminal. The moment they did, the screen lit up with an image, a photograph that sent chills cascading down their spines. It was them. From a time long before the smiling faces, the warmth of innocence, dormant memories that had perished under layers of sorrow. The picture was taken in their hometown, the playground where they shared laughter and dreams, now a distant echo. How is this possible? Sarah gasped, stepping back as exhaustion washed over her like a cold wave. What does it want from us? Before Ethan could respond, the symbols on the screen shifted rapidly, forming a single ominous word: escape. The hum intensified. Ethan, I feel something. A sharp pang gripped her chest. It's like it's pulling at my mind. Fight it, Sarah. Don't let it in. We've faced our fears, we can face this too. As Ethan's words hung in the air, the scene changed again. Images flickered, darkened paths in the woods, foreboding figures lurking just out of sight, the unmistakable grasp of betrayal. A flicker of static made them jump, then silence fell heavy, tangible with dread. Then, the ground beneath their feet trembled violently, almost as if the very foundation was protesting their presence. What is it doing? Ethan yelled, holding onto the terminal for support. The darkness is shifting, pulling us in. Sarah realized, panic dancing in her chest. We have to move now. They tore away from the terminal, the mechanical hum rising to a spine-chilling crescendo, echoing in their minds. Shadows erupted from the hallway, rushing at them like hounds unleashed from their leash. Back! Sarah screamed, but the darkness enveloped them in a suffocating embrace, sharp tendrils lashing out as they fought to break free. Keep going! Ethan shouted, the fear driving him forward. They bolted down the corridor, forced to confront the reality unfolding before them. But ahead, an ominous door loomed thick and unyielding, whispering secrets hidden within. Would it lead them out, or further into the madness? As they neared, the whispers grew louder, each echo brushing against the edges of sanity. Do we dare? Sarah hesitated, glancing back as shadows surged behind them, clawing for their light. We have no choice. Ethan steeled himself, gripping the door handle. Racing hearts, their fingers trembled as they prepared to breach the unknown. What awaited them, lurking just beyond the threshold? Ethan's grip tightened on the cold metal handle, his breath hitching in his throat. Sarah's eyes darted around, scanning the relentless shadows creeping ever closer. Time felt torn between heartbeats. They could hear it, muffled whispers swirling around them, growing louder, distorted. Open the door, they seemed to beckon, tugging at their souls, promising safety while cloaked in dread. On three, Ethan said, voice cracking, bolstered with false confidence. 1, 2. Before he could say 3, Sarah pushed against the door with everything she had. It swung open with a groan that seemed to echo off the walls like a warning. A gust of stale air rolled out, wrapping around them as they stumbled inside. The room beyond was cloaked in darkness, illuminated only by harsh flickers from neon lights above, lights that buzzed and flickered like angry fireflies. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of rust and something more acrid, like burnt dreams. Each step on the concrete floor sent a shiver racing through Sarah's spine, the sound echoing ominously. What is this place? Sarah whispered, searching for answers in the barely visible corners of the dim room. Ethan squinted, attempting to decipher shadows. It looks like a lab. His voice dripped with uncertainty as shards of machinery surrounded them, most covered in dust but some still quietly humming. Tables cluttered with abandoned files and strange devices lay strewn about, while a dim hum of machinery pulsed like a distant heartbeat. A flash of movement caught Sarah's eye. Did you see that? She jerked her head toward the far end of the room where the glow barely reached. See what? Ethan turned sharply. I swear, it moved. Fear twisted in her stomach. The noise of the door creaking behind them made them both whirl around. Shadows slipped through the gap like ink seeping into water. Panic ignited in Sarah's chest, a primal scream clawing at her throat. We can't go back. Stay calm. Ethan's voice was a thin thread of steel in the chaos. Maybe there's another way out. The shadows tightened, an almost tangible force pressing down on them. Sarah could feel it, the weight of dread crushing her lungs. We have to find answers. This place, it's rich with secrets. Her voice trembled, laced with determination as despair whispered in her mind. It might be a trap, Sarah. Ethan countered, urgency rising. We can't trust anything here. But Sarah was already moving, drawn to a flickering monitor at the far end of the lab, its screen alive with fragmented images and text. Look, it's still on. She gestured, her fingers itching to touch it. Ethan hesitated but followed, captivated despite himself. The monitor displayed a flurry of events, blurred faces, symbols, and fragments of locations spiraled across its surface. What are they doing? He asked, straining to piece together visuals that felt like a memory, yet were distant. As they drew closer, a horrifying discovery took shape on the screen, their own faces, twisted with fear and anger, suddenly morphing into a deeper, darker figure that resembled something out of a nightmare. Oh my God, Ethan! Sarah gasped, clutching his arm. What are we seeing? Before he could respond, the air crackled, a low growl vibrating through the floor. The lights flickered violently, plunging them into sporadic darkness. Ethan stepped in front of Sarah, an instinctual protector in the face of impending doom. Fingers of shadow crept along the walls, finding their way toward the screen. Tendrils reached like desperate hands, clawing at the light while the whispers grew louder, more frantic. Join us, become one with the dark, embrace the truth, no. We need to shut this thing down. Ethan yelled over the chaos, eyes locked on a single red button glowing ominously next to the monitor. He darted forward. Ethan, wait. Sarah's voice surged with panic as a shadow lunged at her, slipping through the narrow space between her and the screen. In that moment, reality warped, and inky black stretched toward them like a living entity. Her heart raced. Ethan. But it was too late. He pressed the button, and the display exploded with a fierce brightness, blinding them momentarily. When their vision cleared, the lab was transformed. Walls writhed, and the machines let out a high-pitched resonance, shaking the very ground beneath them. They were no longer in control. Darkness engulfed them entirely, a hungry abyss threatening to pull them under. What did you do? Sarah screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the chaos around them. With a sudden jolt, a figure emerged from the shadows, a looming silhouette, surrounded by a fog of unearthly energy. Its breath seemed to darken the air itself. Welcome back, it hissed, and the truth unfurled like a hidden blade, sharp and treacherous. Would they escape the maniacal grip of the darkness, or would they become just another whisper within the shadows? As the door rattled behind them, a chilling promise hung in the air: you can't run from what you are. The air shivered with palpable tension, a thick fog of dread hanging heavily around Ethan and Sarah. The figure loomed larger, obscured by the choking darkness. Its presence was like a weight that pressed down on their chests, making it hard to breathe. Ethan felt a mixture of defiance and sheer terror coursing through him as he faced whatever horror had been unleashed by the press of the button. Who are you? He managed to choke out, his voice barely breaking through the cacophony of whispers. A slow smile spread across the figure's shadowy features, uncomfortably wide, as if it reveled in their fear. I am what remains, of all those who sought the truth. They fell into the darkness, just like you will. It reached out a gaunt hand, fingers stretching unnaturally, almost beckoning. Don't listen to it. Sarah screamed, fear igniting her resolve. Yet inside, she felt a strange pull, like a thread connecting her to the figure. We have to get out of here, Ethan. Ethan's eyes darted to the now anomalous monitor, images flashing too fast to comprehend. The whispers grew louder, drowning him in their desperate tones. The truth lies within. Embrace the shadows, become whole. Shut up. You can't have us. Ethan shouted, voice trembling, taking a protective step toward Sarah. But the shadows thickened, curling around their ankles. Well done, Ethan. Attempt to defy me. The thrill of rebellion only strengthens my grasp. The figure's voice slithered deeper, wrapping itself around Ethan's mind, making him feel small and insignificant. A sharp pang shot through Sarah's heart. "We're not your puppets." She lunged forward, pulling Ethan toward an exit that seemed to flicker momentarily through the dense fog wrapping around them. "Run!" she yelled, and they broke from their frozen position, sprinting away from the whispering horror. Footsteps echoed behind them, a swirling tempest of fate. The looming darkness seemed to claw at their backs, tendrils grasping for any weakness. They barreled through the lab's narrow corridors, lit only by intermittent bursts of neon light, just enough to glimpse the horrors that flanked them: twisted machines with glowing eyes, remnants of unholy experiments. Each one felt alive, watching, waiting to join the cacophony of whispers. "What did we wake up?" Sarah gasped between desperate breaths, trying to keep pace with Ethan. They turned a corner, skidding to a halt. Ahead, the exit glimmered not as salvation but as a treacherous mirage. "Keep moving," Ethan urged, but hesitation gripped him as he felt the weight of unseen eyes tracking their every step. "Ethan!" Sarah's eyes widened as a shadow scuttled across the floor, darting toward them like a predator. Ethan grabbed Sarah's wrist, pulling her into a nearby room, slamming the door shut. They leaned against it, hands trembling, hearts hammering. The whispers intensified, seeping through the cracks, almost mocking their efforts to escape. "You cannot hide. Truth will find you. What do we do?" Sarah panted, glancing around the dimly lit room cluttered with jars filled with strange, murky liquids and artifacts that felt imbued with sorrow. "We have to find something we can use," Ethan whispered, frantic eyes scanning the shadowy corners. Suddenly, a blinding light emanated from the corner of the room. A small, pale orb floated above a rusted table. They could feel heat radiating from it, an alluring warmth amidst the cold dread surrounding them. "That's it. It might be a key," Sarah exclaimed, inching closer. But as she reached for it, a chilling laugh echoed through the room, freezing them in place. "Foolish kids. Do you think you can take what you don't understand? The darkness will consume you." The orb flickered violently, and a crack echoed through the room. Shadows bent and curled, as if the lab itself was alive, rejoicing in their futile attempts. Ethan felt a shudder run down his spine. Something wasn't right. Their frantic search for salvation had put them deeper into a game they were never meant to play. "Grab it!" he shouted, urgency surging within. "We have to try." As Sarah lunged for the orb, the shadows twisted around her, threatening to pull her down. Ethan darted forward, reaching for her just as the darkness hissed around her. But was the orb salvation or doom? "Come to me, Sarah," it echoed, a siren's call resonating within the shadows. With horrified desperation, they lunged into the light, not knowing what truth awaited them in this haunting dance with darkness. The moment their fingers brushed the orb, the room exploded with energy, and everything went white. What awaited them on the other side of the veil? Freedom or unimaginable terror? Light burst around them in a blinding flash, enveloping everything in a brilliant white glow. Time warped, stretching into an infinite void where sound disappeared. Ethan felt Sarah's hand slip from his grip, and a surge of panic washed over him. "Sarah!" His voice echoed back, a desperate whisper swallowed by the emptiness. The whirling brightness dimmed, and he stumbled forward, disoriented. When he could see again, he found himself in a dimly lit corridor, but there was an unsettling stillness: no whispers, no shadows, just an oppressive silence. The walls were slick with neglect, peeling paint exposing rotten wood beneath. A cold draft sent shivers down his spine. "Where are you?" he called out, heart racing. Fear gnawed at him. The orb, they had grasped it, but what had they unleashed? Ethan came a faint, trembling voice from further down the hall. He followed it, guilt tightening around his chest. Each step felt weighted, as if the floor actively tried to pull him back. "Sarah!" he shouted again, this time louder, more urgent. He rounded a corner, and the sight before him sent cold dread crashing through his veins. There, crumpled against the wall, was Sarah, her face ghostly pale, eyes wide with terror. "Ethan!" she gasped, scrambling to her feet. It's all wrong." She pointed shakily down the corridor. Ethan's gaze followed. At the far end stood a door rusted and broken, its hinges hanging on by a thread. Flickering light leaked from beneath, an eerie yellow glow that felt almost inviting amidst the gloom. But the air crackled with tension, raising the hairs on his arms. "Is that an exit?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as shadows coalesced around them, whispering promises of insight and despair. The whispers grew louder, reverberating off the walls. "You cannot escape, you will understand." Ethan's stomach churned. The prospect of escaping this place suddenly felt like a cruel joke. "Let us get out of here," Ethan urged, pulling Sarah along. They raced toward the door, footsteps echoing in the silence, heartbeats pounding in unison. They reached the threshold, and the moment Ethan thrust the door open, a whirlwind of energy surged past him. The light flooded over them, blinding and chaotic. Inside, he glimpsed a chaos of machinery, screens flickering with distorted images of horror, faces twisted in agony, eyes wide with terror. Blood dripped like ink, cascading off the edges of tables stacked with grim artifacts of forgotten experiments. "Ethan!" Sarah cried, clutching his arm, but he was drawn to one particular screen. His breath froze. "What are these?" The images transitioned into distorted frames, flickering between horror and grotesque reality. People he recognized, their friends, neighbors, even family members lost in this dark providence. Each face etched with a narrative of despair, each scene heavier than the last. "No, it can't be," Ethan stammered, backing away in horror. "What have they done?" "Maybe they're still alive." Sarah floated the idea, though the tremor in her tone betrayed her doubt. "They're gone," Ethan shouted, mind racing as despair clawed at his throat. "This place, it consumes everything." A low, guttural laugh erupted from the shadows behind them. The figure, the one enveloped in darkness, materialized once more, its features obscured but its eyes seething with malevolence. "Welcome back, dear ones. You think you can leave? The truth is now inside you." The shadows crept closer, pulsing with life and intent. Ethan felt Sarah's squeeze on him tighten, as if she were trying to slow the inevitable. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, panic boiling over. "Your essence," it hissed, curling shadows coiling around their ankles. "You and all who seek the truth will become one with the darkness." As the temperature dropped and shadows churned around them, Ethan made a split-second decision. "We need to fight it. It's not going to let us go." Before he could finish, the figure lunged forward, stretching its arms toward them like a spider ensnaring its prey. A vision of their friends, their families, taunted him. There was no way out but through this darkness. "Sarah! We need to stand together," he yelled, feeling adrenaline chase away the fear. "Whatever that truth is, we face it together." Their hands clasped tightly, hearts racing, Ethan braced for the confrontation. But separating truth from terror was impossible, and as they prepared to face the writhing shadows, a final whisper echoed through the chamber, a promise intertwined with despair. "Join us or perish." The darkest chapter had begun, and they were trapped in a nightmare that refused to release its grip. What other horrors slept in the corners of this forsaken place, waiting to be awakened? The shadows writhed angrily around Ethan and Sarah, coiling tighter as if sensing their resolve. "Join us or perish," the figure hissed again, a chilling reverberation that echoed through the hollow space. An icy tremor surged through Ethan, dread pooling in his gut. But just as fear threatened to consume them, determination sparked anew. "No!" Ethan shouted, voice breaking through the suffocating darkness. "We refuse. We're not your playthings." With a sudden surge of strength, he clenched Sarah's hand tighter. The warmth radiating between them ignited a small flicker of light against the encroaching shadows. We will not let you take us. The shadows hissed, parting for a moment as if surprised by their defiance. Sarah felt the pulse of the warmth between them growing stronger, feeding off their collective courage. "Ethan, it's working!" she cried, wide-eyed with hope. "Keep fighting." They stepped forward, hearts pounding in unison as they faced the figure looming in the darkness, each of them channeling the love and memories that had kept them anchored through the turmoil. "Do you think you can defeat the very essence of fear?" It crooned mockingly, but there was a palpable twinge of uncertainty in its voice. "Yes," they declared in unison, their voices cutting through the darkness with clarity, illuminating the shadows. "You are nothing but a story. A memory trapped in our minds." With each word, the shadows that twined around them twisted violently, shrieking as if the light pierced through unseen wounds. But amidst the clarity, uncertainty clawed at Ethan's heart. What if they faltered? What if the darkness was too strong? "Remember our truth," Sarah urged, squeezing his hand. "Moments of joy, of love." Her voice resounded with certainty, almost rhythmically. "It's bigger than all of this." She began to draw from the well of memories the glittering laughter, sweet moments shared, the unwavering bond of family. As if responding to her call, visions flooded their minds: Ethan cavorting with friends, Sarah crafting with their son, familial love blooming brighter with every recollection shared. Together, Ethan felt invincible, pulling strength from those cherished memories. "We fought to keep these moments alive. We embrace them, not fear. They are our truth." Light erupted from their grasp, blinding the darkness, forcing it back with vehement thrashes. "No! No!" The figure shrieked, losing form as the brightness expanded, illuminating every shadowed corner. A whirlwind of emotion cascaded through the space, unraveling the horror as it retreated, warriors releasing their grip. "We are whole," Ethan shouted, standing tall amidst the chaos. "Your power is nothing compared to the love we carry." With one final scream of aggravation, the figure shuddered and shattered, splintering away into a collection of frantic whispers that faded like echoes into the void until silence reigned once more. The room around them transformed, light spilling forth from the remnants of darkness, illuminating an exit ahead. "Is it over?" Sarah panted, eyes brimming with disbelief as they glanced around, marveling at the absence of shadows. "I think it is," Ethan breathed, relief washing over him as they approached the threshold. Together, they felt a renewed lightness, hope flooding their hearts once again. The door creaked open, revealing a vast expanse outside. Warm sunlight bathed them, fresh air invigorating their lungs as they stepped into a world reborn. "I can't believe we did it," Sarah breathed, tears of joy mingling with laughter that flowed freely. "It's finally over." Ethan turned, pulling her into a tight embrace, the weight of their experience dissipating like fog under the sun. No more shadows looming over us, we're finally free. But deep within, unshaken lessons lingered. Truth remained both a heavy burden and a liberator. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious, but the memories would always serve as reminders of the darkness conquered. As they looked toward the horizon, Ethan held Sarah's hand tightly. "Together, we can face anything." And with that, they stepped forward, ready to embrace the life waiting for them beyond Thornfield, filled with warmth, laughter, and unyielding love. This was not just an end, but a fierce new beginning. Now, as you've experienced the emotional roller coaster of Sarah and Ethan's harrowing journey, I need you to act. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss more exclusive stories that will leave you breathless. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this community. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about Sarah and Ethan's fight against darkness. What do you think we'll see next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Your support is what fuels this channel, so let us spread the excitement together.